Oh, welcome to what is going to be a lit conversation here on Mindset Makeovers podcast today. In front of me, I have a being who has impacted and influenced me in ways that I can't even describe in such a short period of time. And that is just testimony to the power, the wisdom, the essence of this being in front of me. So much so that I'm not even going to introduce them today because when I relate to this being, it's just like the energetic essence of who they are that comes through. So it's like this nameless, formless being that I get to interact with. So instead of me placing a label and identifying them in a certain way today, I'm going to offer up the opportunity for this beautiful, dear friend of mine to introduce themselves in this moment. So, hello and welcome.
Thank you so much, Lena. And I'm so grateful to just be in this space. My name is Angel, and I am joining you from New Orleans. I am so grateful to just like be in this space and like share our magic. I on social media, my handle is Shaman Papi, and a lot of the work that I do is working with our plant ancestors and also learning how to move with the wisdom that our body has. Um, I dabble in the field of sexual health, psychedelics, and ancestral healing arts. And I'm really grateful because the way the universe connected us has been so divine and also just like expansive in the ways that we get to learn from each other's experiences. And yeah, today I'm just like ready to just dive in and share like the sassy, juicy experiences that my life has offered um, to your community. So yeah, thank you
You're so
for
lucky,
being
and I
here.
can't wait to share this conversation. One of the things that I notice about you, I witness in you, is that you have the audacity to be fully expressed, but it's not in this overtly audacious expression. So there's the audacity of what I perceive to just be the transmission of soul truth in real time that comes through you, but it's not in a way that feels like confronting. It's never offensive. It's not something that I look at and I'm just kind of like, okay, just please be seated. We get it. We know who you are, right? It's never like that. And I'm wondering how you have within yourself manifested a confidence that truly, from the outside at least, through my perception of you, seems to come from the base of your being, from a sense of knowing, from a sense of expression and curiosity. There is no part of you that seems to be a replication of somebody else. There's nothing that seems preconceived or decided. And so I'm wondering if you could please just speak on whether I'm spot on here or whether I'm like, just hallucinating and living the fantasy when no, I believe you said it's like, no, no, you got it. You got it.
Yeah. From a young age, like I had to face a lot of adventure and adversity and shifting in my life. And I think it made me such a adaptable person and also just very curious of like how we express love. Um, Growing up in the Caribbean and Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic, our culture is so like warm and our people are very loving and really focus on like how we are able to be in community but also like um build a sense of uniqueness in our own joy. And I'm really grateful for being able to like have those experiences at a young age and also having to discover who the fuck I was when I was young because at a young age like I was already kind of like navigating like my multiple like two-spirited identity. Like I was like I really loved to dance and I really was like into the arts, but I also was like really curious about like the ways that we like express love, and how we can create love just through cooking and just through dancing, just through, you know, being of service. And a lot of those experiences built me, because I at a young age was a military brat. I grew up at 5 years old. I had to come to the United States, and like had this huge culture shock, and had to shift into this identity of like being from like this warm Caribbean vibe to like bringing that to the US, and like everybody being like, why are you so joyful, like why are you so happy, and like, in those childhood experiences really informed my love. I mean, I also experienced a lot of grief at a young age. I lost my father very young, and that made me really, be a seeker of like, how can I show more compassion and love to people, um, in the ways that I was seeking. And I think that's why my expression comes out that way. Like, it's just very much focused on how I can listen to people from different experiences. When I moved to the US, I um, really was focused more on and interested in medicine. And actually, when I went to college, was going to become a doctor, and was really interested in that because I wanted to help people find true healing. I had experienced a lot of like um, adversity with healthcare, and like seeing my family like navigate that. And I was like the middleman. I was like the one that was like translating for my mom and my grandma, and like like, okay, like, like, this is what the treatment is, but like, let's make it fun, type of thing. And that really inspired me to just figure out other ways of like looking into the healing arts, um, which actually led me, like, I thought I was going to become a doctor, but I ended up in public health, working in the area of sexual health and um, sex education with youth. I think that sexuality, really teaches us a lot about not only our identity, but also like how we view intimacy and how we love others, whether it be romantically, whether it be like in relationship, friendship. Um, and I had to like at a young age, really be exposed to that, because um, I was navigating being a military brat and moving a lot, and then also like finding like deep relationship, but then having to uproot and move to Germany, and then move to, you know, uh uh different country, just like based on the war. I was like in the middle of PTSD, like as a military, but like trying to be that love and trying to embody that love. And I think that really made me um just build uh, a capacity for expression of love and liberation, that I felt like when people came into my space, they just felt immediately like, I can just be me. I don't have to like wear this mask. Um, and it's been a building. Like, it's honestly like it's come from a lot of different experiences of navigating like not fitting in, and like knowing that like I don't have to fit in into the when I was working in public health, the ways that like I did my organizing work for community, that like I could do it from a place of like creativity and like twerking and like and like building laughter and joy into the work. Because I always like, just from a young age, I liked to laugh. I liked bringing out joy. And I think that's what really informed my confidence, but also like my awareness of like how I carried. myself in community, because it's like navigating different experiences. I mean, I say the Q plus community, LGBTQ community, is just like there's so many different experiences. And in our training we talk about how we're able to like look at these you know experiences of trauma and turn them into gifts and turn them into wisdom. And I think that I try to live my life in that way. Is just like, how can I experience different cultures and different experiences with community to build my capacity to be loved, but also like be that safe container for expression.
As I listen to you speaking, I think one of the things that, arises for me is that you have been a person who has continuously crossed lines of difference
Mhm.
culturally, within yourself, being willing to cross like standards within society or what's been accepted. And you've done that again and again and again. And so you do become this embodied permission slip for the person that is like trapped within the labeling or the boundaries within themselves, that wants to cross a line of difference within themselves but doesn't know how to do that. And I think you are just that embodiment of permission to be all things at once and to just be this cosmic swirl. And I know it has been really confronting for me within our own spiritual family, our sangha that we have, to truly accept the love that is offered, to be loved, and to let it really land for me at 36 years old
Mhm.
what it means to be love and what it means to receive love from a being who embodies that as themselves, for themselves, and shares that. So for me, it's been really hard as people have said to me, yourself included, like, Lena, I love you. What I noticed, first of all, is this resistance that comes up to be like, but why? And realizing how I'm still relating to love and connection and relationship as a transactional experience, or that the impermanence that I've experienced within my life has made me tentative or hesitant or scared to let that love in. And learning what it truly means to be love, not to love another or to be the lover or to share love, but to be love, is something that I'm very much still journeying through, because I understand it intellectually. I've read all the things, I've listened to all the things, but to get it in my body and to have it be like a safe, integrated, actualized experience is something very honestly, like that's what I'm moving through. So, as someone that I perceive to be like ahead of me in their own journeying, can you speak to what it fucking means when we actually say, like, I am love?
Yeah. Yeah. When I think about those words, I think about, I am part of Earth. I am part of, all things, everything that are keeping us, connected. And how, for me, our Earth teaches me how to be more compassionate and how to be more just embodied with the ways that like I co-live. And also understanding that like it is through creating that safe container of people being able to express love in this like unconditional way, that we are able to learn more from not only just other beings and like the celestial realm that is like around us, like always showing us like we are loved and we are like taken care of, um but also that it is through the beingness of like just allowing ourselves to really just like take the leap with like some experiences that we have in life, is that we learn, whether it be an experience that is unpleasant, we learn that like we have more capacity to love because our heart has expanded, and our heart has expanded through like witnessing each other's grief, or it could be through experiencing heartbreak, but still like genuinely like wishing these all sentient beings like freedom in their experience, because I think that for me, love is just being in tune with like nature, and like how nature, right? Like when we water it, like we are able to get like the nutrients, like when we, that we need. And um, when we live in that way of reciprocity, we're able to like experience love and abundance in a way that I think that mainstream spirituality doesn't really fully embody or talk about, because it is, in all of our relations that like we are able to experience more profound love. And it's funny because like when you talk about like how sometimes I've told people like I love you, and like I really do, and like some people are like they can't take that. And I ask myself, I'm like, is it because like I'm just like love bombing or whatever? Like, I'm like, no, I genuinely like truly just see the love in that in people, and I want them to express their love. I want them to break free from whatever is masking them from expressing their, vessel of love. Because from a lens of like indigenous science, like we lived in a community that like we took care of each other in a tribal way, like we counseled each other. Like these are like the ancestral ways of like knowing, and how we or were able to like really embody um change and transformation is through that like lens of like just unbound love. um and so it's interesting because like the ways that like I relate have transformed through life, or through my life. Like I used to look at love very much more of like I give you this and I expect or this in return. And now it's been like, you know I want to plant these seeds, because I'll give you a solid example. I have this home that like I've been like pouring in love, but I know that like this home is not even for me. It's just for the generations of community members that can come and like really come to a space where they feel love, and like that be a place where they can create, because we can create from an energetic standpoint. When our heart is open, we are able to creatively like just like make poetry, make art. And um yeah, like I think that it is through holding the vast of the human emotions and experience, that we're able to embody love. And I'm on the journey with you, honey. Like I still, it's like I'm still on it. And like I think that it's been a journey of death and rebirth, since we like started like our journey together with the Psalm method. And I think it's like really cool that like we get to expand that more, and like, yeah, live more intentionally with the way that we love.
Something I've been sitting with lately that I think you'll appreciate, and I look forward to your insight on this prompt, is I've been really just shining the spotlight on myself and my rituals, my spiritual practice, the right way that I'm relating to self and source, and just asking myself, like, is this true embodiment and expression, or is any part of this becoming a little bit performative? Is any part of this really just like, me trying to identify with something? It's not actually true expression and exploration. It's like, I don't know, it's me shape shifting again into the next whatever Barbie I'm trying to be at this moment, right? And so I've been asking myself, if the merit of everything that I am doing, everything that I'm cultivating, everything that I'm choosing is not something that I will experience in this lifetime. If I'm doing all of these practices and I'm devoting myself to all of these things and I'm showing up in the world in this way, yet I will never be the one to bear the positive consequence, to like eat the sweet fruit of the merit that I'm trying to accumulate in this life, would I still do it? would I still do it? If I knew that genuinely tapping into my innate goodness and trying to do no harm and be love and to serve wasn't actually going to benefit me in this lifetime, would I still do it? It's a really beautiful and interesting prompt. And for me, there is deep pride and this kind of like sacred pride within me that's like, yes, I would. This is how I want to spend my life. This is the lineage kind of, that is going to come through me deserves for me to be kind of planting these seeds, and all of that kind of arises within me. So it's been a nice maturity in me that I have recognized. And I really think it has been since July last year when we've started this training, to let go of this idea that my practice, my spirituality is about me and how I
Mhm.
experience the world. And to really, for me, like what feels resonant and right for me is like fine tuning my energetic frequency, to ask of myself, like, what's my set point? What am I transmuting to all beings around me based on my conscious choosing and my decision making? So I'd love for you, because I know that you have such deep wisdom when it comes to, the impact and influence of our ancestors, um, to contribute to this, because we are pretty much, laying the foundations and planting those seeds for all those that will come after us. And a lot of what I see online is a lot of us sitting, not you and I, but the collective, sitting in this
Yeah.
seat of entitlement, that we should be reaping the rewards and the benefits of what our ancestors have known and cultivated and created. And maybe not enough conscious thinking and choosing and action taking about what we are leaving behind through our life force.
Wow. Yeah. 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 This is, that I love that you bring this, because I think that there's a lot of I guess there's a lot of messages when it comes to ancestral wisdom, and how like we we use like ancestral arts and healing to really fuel the movement and collective liberation. And I think that when it comes to understanding ancestral like arts, like it's also, how are we living in a reciprocal, I mean, I've been using this word, relationship with our ancestors. Like, yes, like we got this wisdom and like we got the emotional healing, but like how are we, truly allowing them to work through us so we can, help others like connect with their ancestors and help, um each other be able to embody the work that they have laid, because like our body has just like so much wisdom that like sometimes books cannot like express. And I think that when it comes to connecting with them, it is about like having a tender relationship and making those like offerings and making, creating the space for them to work through our creativity, and like being able to for me, I'm going to just speak about plant medicine um is a gateway to open up our conscious mind to connect with past lives of our ancestors, and allow ourselves to create the relationship with them that we may not be able to make with the ways that we're living in these modern times. Like we're really just like consumed with media and like scrolling, and like we see that affirmation, we see that like beautiful quote, but like are we able to really just like sit and just like be with the ancestors that are in the trees, the ancestors that are like in the hummingbirds that like are trying to like show us a message to brighten up our day? Or it's like I think that it it is in this way that like they try to communicate, and when we are truly like really present, that we're able to really take in that wisdom. And to your point earlier, it's just like not making meaning that is untrue, like it's about keeping this work with integrity, because they see that, they know when we're not like embodying freedom in ourselves, and they will give us some like really big wake up calls in different ways. And I've been through them, and I think that like people can relate that, like when it comes to just learning your history and like decolonizing the way that we view spirituality. And all that means is just not allowing it to be centered on you know creating more harm to this earth, and to like um the ways that like we collectively are needed to show up. Because it's really easy, and when you look at like with time, just like religion has definitely colonized the ways that like we um relate, or like also just like are able to freely like express love, just bound of like these rules that were made up, and that kept us like from like the ability to connect with our inner ancestral wisdom. And that's why I was so drawn to work and educate people about ancestral medicines, because I know that there is also a wave that isn't using this medicine intentionally. And it's important that like when we do connect with like um mushrooms, psilocybin, that we know that like these are medicines that come from a lineage all over the world. Like you see this in indigenous communities in Mexico and Australia and the Caribbean islands and Africa, like, and they were medicines to help us connect with our inner knowing, to be able to connect with the wisdom our guides or ancestors had, as we evolved, and um, bringing us back home to how we relate with Earth. And I think that that's what when we have those intentional relationships with our like practice, we're able to be of service, and not like be disillusioned by like the ways that we are um talking about the people who are like literally behind us, just like trying to like be like, bitch, you better apply for that job, you better take on that opportunity that I just laid out for you. They are doing it. And like sometimes we get so disillusioned with like media or such things, that like we forget like that they're willing to be there to take care of us. Yeah, I could go on and talk about this for a minute. I also wanted to like just ask, like, how has it been for you personally, like as you've learned all this wisdom and like connecting with um the spiritual community, and like how online a lot of these messages are sent, like how have you been able to like navigate and be like, okay, this is what's real for me?
Yeah,
And
beautiful question. Thank you. My on my dad's side of the family, my grandparents were like devout Catholics, like, and they took their practice and their religion very seriously, which is not something that I can relate to. I didn't have a positive relationship with the church, with their religion, and I never really witnessed within myself that there had been anything useful passed down to me through them, through their being, through their devotion to their religion. Until recently, I've really reflected on the capacity that I have to kind of really get focused on what has meaning for me, and to drown everything else out, and to demonstrate true devotion to something. So I think like guidance for me has come through having certain teachers just present themselves to me in ways that I don't remember how my current spiritual teacher kind of like appeared to me, manifested in this life. I know it was social media somewhere, but I don't really remember. But I know there's been guidance. It almost feels like something grabs me by the kind of I'm holding my own chin and just like directs my
Mhm.
focus and attention. And there's this just innate inner like that, stay focused. And then I'm able to just really it's ineffable that I can just tune in to like what is meant for me and I'm unbothered by anything else. And so there's been probably only a handful of teachers in my life um, that I have felt that click, like this is for you. And then demonstration of my devotion, my willingness to not just do what's cute or to do what I feel like doing, but to actually activate devotion to ritual, to practice, to teaching, has kind of protected me, I think, from all of the, we would all together call it spiritual bubblegum shit, that's out there.
Yeah.
I'm unbothered, unfazed. I don't hear it. I don't notice it. I don't recognize it because I'm so steady in the devotion to what I feel has been meant for me. Um,
Mhm. Mm.
my point in bringing my grandparents up was that I don't relate to the love for the religion that they had, but I have witnessed in myself the same devotion and the same
Mm.
willingness to kind of be like, this is what is for me, and my life will be a demonstration of the devotion that I have to that. And for me, I'm very much, my life feels like I am devoted to the understanding of it all. I've not arrived yet, but I'm devoted to the understanding of my purpose, to what's meant for me. And I'll keep showing up and trying to kind of like just understand.
Yes. And that, it continues to unfold, sister, like that, like purpose just continues to be like, whoa, okay. Like, there's a little bit of like, wisdom in like, this area or like in like, relationships and how like, we're building, stronger connections. I love that you mentioned, your background with your family, because I also grew up Catholic Christian, and that was also a big reasoning why like I was so devoted, but also like curious. I'm like, there has to be something else, because like I know like y'all are just coming to church because y'all can't deal with like the traumas that you experience.
Oh,
Because like
don't you
it,
think sometimes for me, I'm like, it's like we had something planted within us that had us have this like head tilt, this curiosity to be like, make it make sense. Make it make sense. We had the audacity to ask the question. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, and it's like, it's like you kind of feel it. And um I think different religions teach us a lot of beautiful traditions, um but also they can be very harmful, and like it's knowing how to like navigate that. I mean, I come from the Caribbean islands, and like um just to like for people who may not know, is like these are islands that were like super like colonized by like we had France, we had Spain, we had Africa. Like we just had like a mixture of all cultures coming together, and it was just like poof. And then so like growing up, like I was always like, okay, yeah, like I get it, like Catholicism and Christianity and different theologies were teaching me different things, but there was like, wait, like there's something else here. Like there is like some
Did you have lived experience? I want to share like a random anecdote from my childhood, and I'm wondering whether you have like these experiences that kind of like sound like nothing, but actually you can see it as like a pivotal point in your own inner journey. So I remember I must have been around 13, 14 years old. I was going to a Catholic girls' high school, and I was just living this very traumatized existence that was pretty much kind of invisible to everybody else because I was quite resilient, didn't have the capacity or the language or the safety to express what was going on within me. And I was finding it really hard to just be around people, to be at school, to sit still. All the things were going on within me that made it really hard to be at school. And so I started, I don't know what word you guys use in the States, actually. I'm about to say jigging school, but I feel like that's a very Australian term. Or wagging, probably just as Australian. Not showing up to class, right? I was meant to go to school. I wasn't going to school. Um, And I remember this one time, like, where do you go for 6 hours during the day when you can't go home? You don't want to be at school. I wasn't a bad kid, you know? I just couldn't be there. I just couldn't sit still. I just couldn't be with the feeling, the sensation, the emotion, the thoughts that were just within me. And I went and I sat at the school. There was like the chapel. And I went into the chapel and just like sat in the chapel in the middle of the day. I'm meant to be in class. And I just went and sat there, hoping, I think, for somebody to see me there and ask me, like, what are you doing here? Are you okay? I get emotional every time I tell the story because I
Mm,
see the younger me there so desperate for salvation, for help, for someone, for something. And I sat there in that cold, empty, echoey chapel, and no one came and no one saw me. And I had to just have this, it was like this realization that dropped for me, like, no one's coming. And this religion isn't going to save you. These people aren't going to save you. And at that time, I think I internalized it as it's got to be you. And I'm gifted and grateful now that, you know, at 36, I'm realizing, yes, and you and the community that you build, you and the soul
mm,
family that you find. But I think that was a very defining moment that I sat there willing to to have the salvation that I had kind of been like promised that I would receive in a time of need. And when it didn't arrive or didn't manifest in the very naive way I kind of expected it to, like I should just be like, all right, God, I'm sat here now, send your people, help me. And it didn't happen. I think it really did direct me and guide me away from what was not for me, and a little closer to my own sense of kind of, you know, spiritual practice that I've established. So I'm wondering, as I share that up, do you have anecdotes from your past that have supported you in kind of just, I guess I'm asking, like, activate the audacity to decide for yourself?
mm, mm. Yes, Ashe, yeah. Yeah, my in my childhood, I really, became a seeker because I lost my father at a very young age, and it was in a really interesting time because there was a lot of shift in the islands, and um I basically, I lost him to the war on drugs. And having that like experience at 2 years old, like I it was really hard for me to process because like I knew like everybody always talked about like my father and like how he was such a joyful, loving being. And I'm just like growing up, I'm like, why do I like, you know, why did I was like, God, why did you take him away? Why can't I like have this being that was like supposed to guide me? And I think I always, would go to church and be devoted to spirituality, seeking him. And it wasn't until when and I get like chills just thinking about this. Um, it wasn't until like I was around the age of 9, or I want to say 10, but that I found his diary. And my dad's diary talks about how the moment that I was born was like the happiest moment in his life. And he talks about how he hopes um, that I be a man of good, and that I am able to like get a good education, and just like beautiful heartfelt words. But knowing that this being who was living with depression, like and struggling with addiction, still had this major love for me, made me curious, like, how do I really connect with this being? And it was through that like experience of that father wound that guided me to find ways to connect with his presence and his guidance in my life. And using that experience to help me navigate the unknown and like the big risk that I would take in life, because nobody would understand. And it was just my relationship with my father who, you know in many ways, I think that like I grew up, you know, I was born with depression, and you know it transferred, and I, in building that like that relationship with him spiritually, it helped guide me in my own personal liberation, because it allowed me to see that I was actually like, you know, birthed to be that love outside of like all those like, you know, chaotic or depressing circumstances that my family was experiencing. And it wasn't until later in life that I really like understood that. Um, but I had a profound moment where, you know, I noticed that that was my purpose, was to be that love that my father was trying to find or trying to express. Um, and that's what really navigate like really um made me take every opportunity and like just be a community organizer, because I was like seeking to help others want to like connect with their like father wounds and like make purpose of them, or you know, because I think that there wasn't a full understanding of how I would take this deep childhood grief. And so it made me very mystical. It made me like very like, you know, very when like just like curious about how I could connect, create a relationship with him. And um you know, I also had his like his brother in my life, and then my uncle had a brain tumor, who I was the caretaker when I was like in college. And through seeing those experiences, I was like, wow, like I am able to see that part of the reason why they that I was witnessing this like profound experiences of grief and death and touching like that so close, was because spirit was trying to show me how to love in every, you know, every moment of like this like very wide human experience. So, you know, there's multiple experiences for that like really open up my gateway to spirituality, and my curiosity towards how we can love people in the most profound moments and breakthroughs. I think that it is like when we, you know, end a relationship, that we find who the hell we are. When we start a new one, we birth who we are. And I think that it's like that cycle that um of right death and rebirth that like really got me connected to um yeah, the infinite source of God, and like the people who I lost that were right there with me the entire way, you know? Um, and yeah, it's funny when you shared your story. I thought back when I went to Barcelona, um, and I was at the cathedral there, and I was sitting and just contemplating. I was like in a crossroads of my life. I was like, do I continue to do this like, you know, work in community, or do I just like go out and like, you know, learn from the arts and the expression of movement? And you know, um yeah, like I thought like in some ways that like I would be saved, but like it was all just pointing me to just allow myself to just take up space, you know? Um, so yeah, I think it's really profound when we have like these moments of, I think, transpersonal experiences, and we're able to acknowledge that they are gifts, and they taught me so much. And I know, like, it's like for you as well, it's just like I see you and everything you create, and I'm just like so like at awe and like excited because I love people who can just take off all of and be naked with their expression. And I feel that when I like see you and all the work that you're doing. And I think that's what, we came here to do, is to just, be naked with spirit and just like allow ourselves to just like roll around the dirt and like,
Do you know what I
you
love about what you share?
know.
I love so much that I think there's this messaging that our purpose is something that we should be seeking and striving for and looking for and trying to kind of actualize. And I always feel like your message is so fucking clear. Like, you are the moment. You are already that bitch. You are the purpose. Like, it is happening here and now. Stop looking. Like, just be. Just be. You know?
Just be,
Just
yeah.
be. And I think the moment that we kind of realize, like, I see a lot of what I do, I hear myself say out loud to myself as myself, which is where most of my conversation takes place, to be honest. I constantly feel like I can slip into this feeling of I'm in preparation for something that I don't know I'm preparing for yet, that I'm doing all of these things to become some version of me that's going to do some great thing, and then it will make sense. And I have to pull myself back to be like, what I'm doing here and now in this moment is the point. It's all that there is. It is the point. And I love that. I feel like everything that you say always highlights that and just like amplifies that within me. Like, I am the purpose. You
You
know?
are, honey. Yes. Yeah, yeah, you are. And like,
And
yeah,
not
that's
just
why.
me, each of us, like we need to, like, it's that, we're taking that, the I am kind of like concept and exploring it and just allowing ourselves to have the audacity to be like, my expression, my experience, what I transmute and share in this moment is all that matters. There is no better me, there is no best bit. It's like, what can I do now, here?
Yeah, where we are, and yeah, I totally think that like it is through like just allowing ourselves to express like the, again, I just say it, just like express like the unknown human experiences that we have, that like we get to like learn and grow. It's like, it's when we're like not out of our thinking brain, and we're just like in the heart and the body, and like just being like, damn, that motherfucker is pumping because I got something to
Yeah.
express, and I'm about to move this booty, and I'm about to like shake this, you know, this body in ways that like show that I am so excited to live,
Yeah.
even in the moments that I wake up and I feel awful, that I can put on, Beyonce and shake that shit all out and know that, like you said, like it's like we are the moment. And
Think it's important too to allow ourselves to express the terrors, the horrors, the sadness, the grief, all of that. I think to have the audacity sometimes to be the expression of that is needed and necessary. Like, sometimes we feel things so deeply that need to be expressed. I think if we always try and just be kind of uplifted and positive 24/7, then we're not actually highlighting the things that need that universal spotlight shone on them so we can kind of work with them, work through them, bring support to them. But our work is in understanding we can be in that deep, dark depression where we just feel so incapable of showing up, of moving, and we just want to run away and hide and not do anything. I think we have the audacity to learn when we can and when we are willing to be the kind of potential and possibility to be more than just that, and to know that we can be fully attuned to our own darkness, our depression, our despair, and that isn't taking away from our capacity to be love and to be life affirming and to be uplifted, that it all gets to exist in this very confusing cosmic swirl simultaneously, right? We get to be all of the things. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I love that you just said that, because it's sometimes I feel that like we view that like, okay, when somebody is moving through like deep profound like grief or depression, it's like, oh well, like, we like, it's like, oh yeah, that's not like relevant, or like that, it's almost like to the savior comes out of us. And it's like, no, like actually sometimes like there is like a part of like us that needs to share that depression, because maybe somebody else who is having suicidal thoughts needs to know that they're not alone, and like they like that maybe the celestial realm and our ancestors just want us to connect in that profound like that's a sacred emotion. Like
Mm,
we have generations of like different experiences in our bodies. Like, why can't we just see the art in depression and see the art in the ways that it teaches us to see life? I mean, I'll go ahead and share this. Like, I've been diagnosed with clinical depression and um ADHD. And, I appreciate like what Western medicine has taught me about my brain. But I also know that like from like an indigenous standpoint, that like it's also just like an expression of what our ancestors like wanted us to like communicate with like the celestial realm, and like sometimes maybe even the collective grief,
yeah.
that like we need to talk about. And there's so much beauty in that. And there's so much power in our sacred rage
Yeah.
for
There's
doing
powerful expression that comes through
it.
that, right? It's like
Yeah.
you can't miss that. And I think that's what I mean. Like sometimes let yourself be in that place because your power can be transmuted through that. I was reflecting on just different emotions and how comfortably I express them in front of my son lately, right? Because like I noticed the ways that there are some expressions of emotion that, I'm just open with. And then some there's this like hesitation and resistance around letting him be in my presence if I'm really sad, for example. Um, and so I question a lot of my kind of like impulses around him. And I realized
Mhm.
that, like, for me, and I know for a lot of other people that I've kind of shared this with, it's been a shared experience. I'm about to talk about my mom and she's calling me on my phone as if she knows, like, what are you
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Um,
Feeling it.
my mom struggles with her mental health, and sadness in my house growing up was something that meant she would isolate herself in the experience of her sadness and depression. So for me, I learned very quickly that sadness was this very prickly emotion that didn't just impact the person that was experiencing it, it then impacted me. So as a child, sadness was kind of like it took my mum away from me. It created isolation, it created loneliness, it created all of these things. So the sadness in itself wasn't necessarily like, the villain, for lack of a better word. It was the kind of like, I guess, idea around what it means to be sad and whether you could be held and seen and witnessed and loved through certain emotions, or if you had to put them behind a closed door. And as the person that was experiencing life on the other side of that closed door, um,
Mhm.
it has created, for me, it's like this hyper sensitivity and awareness around, like, if someone's sad, I need to stop it straight away because I don't want to lose them. It, triggers all of the kind of like abandonment stuff. So it's just
Mhm.
nothing actualized through this. Just like for me, it's like just a noticing of like I might feel an emotion, but then what actually, comes forward for me is like the story that I tell myself around what's allowed around that emotion, or how we treat that emotion, or how we express and communicate that emotion to others. And it's just very interesting for me to be crying over a TikTok that really doesn't matter, because that's that's the sadness that I'm kind of experiencing in front of my son. And to let him look at me and say, like, what are you doing, you weirdo? Which is what my 4-year-old says. Like, what are you doing, mummy? And for me to say, like, oh, mummy feels sad right now. And for it not to be this expression of shame or wrongdoing or some brokenness in me that's being revealed, for it to just be as easy as a share as I would if I was laughing at something and he said, "What are you doing?" I'm entertained, I'm uplifted, I'm whatever. This is an expression through me, to allow other emotions to just be as part of the experience in the same way. And I think, so much of the work that we do and so much of the work that we share is allowing people to just be with the emotion and the full expression of an emotion, without the story that they may have been told about that emotion.
Mm, yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's yeah, you just said it. Like
It's ringing a bell. It's ringing a bell. I love it. I love it. My love, I have just noticed the time, and I know I could speak to you for about 5 hours long. And I mean, I do, so I feel like I'm just in constant conversation with you. So,
Yeah. And it'll keep the conversation will keep going. And this is just the beginning of everything that we have to share for the collective,
mm, mm.
So I just thank you and your community and our community that we are building, as we continue to just learn on this earth school. We're just like learning, it's like dee, dee, dee. Dancing, and it's so beautiful. And I just really am so grateful for our friendship, and I can't wait to see you in person, because I know the ancestors have that surprise very soon. So
I'm gonna believe you on that one because that would be amazing. My love, thank you
yes,
so much for your time, your energy, your essence, everything that you are, and your generosity in just sharing yourself with us so openly today. Thank you.
thank you. Mm. Ah, gracias.